Hi, welcome to my sewing studio. I'm Mimi, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I made this essentials purse. Just a little pouch that you can carry your wallet, your phone. Just to be clear though, this strap is from another purse, and I am repurposing it. Well, using it for what it's for, but just not the original purse. I added some D-rings. This all materials or similar materials I have listed in the descriptions, and the pattern is available on my site, uh, mimishim.com under shop. And however, you can take this video and make your own.
First, cut 2 of the purse body pieces and 2 of the drawstring case pieces. I sewed together one already with a 3/8 seam allowance. I'm using a regular needle here because this lambskin leather is a thinner weight and easier to sew. When sewing this leather, make sure the top layer doesn't shift too much from aligning with the bottom layer. You can do this by taking it slow and stopping every 3 to 4 inches. I'm also kind of feeding the top layer with my fingers while holding the bottom layer in place and periodically pulling the bottom layer to keep it aligned with the top layer. After sewing the seam, open the seam allowance and top stitch onto the drawstring case. Leave long thread tails at the beginning to help feed the fabric through at the start. I'm sewing with the seam allowance open on the bottom, sewing only onto one layer of the seam allowance. Now mark 1 inch above the seam on the drawstring case. This is where the opening will be to pull the drawstrings. Do this on all 4 sides. You will not be sewing from the marks to the seam. Sew along the sides, skipping the 1 inch opening and along the bottom with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now it's time to reinforce the opening and also sew the seam allowance flat around that opening. Also sew about 3 to 4 rows of stitches above the opening for reinforcement. Now it's time to sew the boxed bottom seam. Line up the seam as best as you can and open the seam allowances. Sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Here is the box bottom sewn. Now it's time to fold over the top edge and sew the drawstring case. Align the top edge with the edge of the lower seam allowance. You're going to sew in the ditch, meaning that you'll sew right in the seam. Sew with the purse inside out and the right side facing up. Make sure that the folded edge is aligned with the lower seam allowance and that the seam allowance is open. While you're sewing, keep your finger here to make sure that the seam allowance is open and the top edge aligned. Keep checking the bottom to make sure everything is in place as you sew in sections. This leather is very forgiving, so if you need to pick out some stitches and re-sew certain parts, you can do so. I actually had to go back and fix some parts, and there weren't any noticeable holes from the needle.
Oh, the D-rings, I got these at Joann's. They have different finishing like the antique. I actually got that just in case. And I actually like this one better, but it turns out that all of the straps that I want to use have kind of gold. It's not exact, but I figured I'm going to use these 3 straps, so I'll just use this one. But they have antique finish and also silver. The next step is to add the D-rings here. I cut these 2 pieces. I'm going to kind of trifold it and then stitch this down and then loop the strap on the D-ring, and I'm going to attach it. First of all, make sure that the seam allowance is open and then double stitch. I'll probably just do 2 rows of stitching. I guess I could do something cool like a box, but I think just 2 lines. This leather is kind of slippery to sew, so I don't want to try anything like super fancy. Just 2 stitches here. And having the seam allowance open will give it another little extra layer for reinforcement. So what I envision with this little mini purse is that I have a lot of straps. I don't know, I feel like purses nowadays just come with removable straps, right? And I thought it would be really cool if I could just reuse these straps and just interchange them as I want. Of course, the drawstring is going to be the closure here, but most likely I'll probably keep it just like half open and just grab my phone and wallet, but just have that as a look. But if, say, I was traveling and I really wanted to keep it closed, then I can keep it closed, but I like having that option. So that's my plan. Okay, I sewed the 2 straps, and what I'm going to do is loop the D-ring. So the overlap is on the inside. And on the bag, I'm going to line it up right here, butt it right up against all of this bulky seams, just right up against there. Okay, and then I'm going to actually take my thick leather needle, since I'm going through so many layers here. I've been using a regular needle because this is so thin and soft, but for this part, I'm going to use the leather needle. So stitch right there, 2 rows. Okay, I got these sewed, and I was actually really surprised at how well this leather sewed. It was just like putting a knife through butter, sewing through so many layers. I was really surprised. I was bracing myself for something bad to happen, but this leather is really forgiving. I will put a link to it in the descriptions of where I got the scraps. All right, now the next step is to put the drawstring through and then I'll be done. I got this from Joann's. I wanted a sturdy leather, but I didn't want, I wanted it to be kind of like slippery as well, because I want to, you know, when I'm pulling, opening and closing it, I want it to be sliding, not sticking. So I think this will work pretty well. We'll see. Okay, so I cut a cord. This is about 25 inches long. I have a threader, a drawstring threader. The opening on this hole is kind of not big enough for this, so I'm just going to take some pliers and flatten it out a little bit to get it in here. And then I'll take the pliers and pull it through. That should be enough. It's pretty stuck on there. And then what I'm going to do is thread, oh, there's thread here. It through one way and then out, and then through the same out. So it's going to loop around, okay? Careful not to get it unthreaded. Just be gentle and just feed it through. There we go. And then we're going to go through again here. Put it in there. There we go. Okay. That out. Great. I kind of want it to look a little bit scrunched, even if it's open, like that. So I'm going to put a knot, like right here. There. And then I will clip up there. And then I'm going to do another round. Put it from the opposite hole, put it in the opposite hole, and then around here. So then I have two drawstrings that I can pull to close it. Okay, I'm happy with the way that it's scrunching here. So I'm going to tie a knot approximately where that is on the other side. I think that's kind of right. Might be a little longer. I'm going to move it up a little bit. Okay, that's about right. Make sure that knot is tight. Okay. Is it open? Closed. I'll probably just kind of like leave it partially open until, you know, if I really want to secure it, then there it is. I hope you like the tutorial. Like I said, this pattern, this shape is available on my website at mimishim.com on the shop, and it's $6. for the downloadable PDF, but you can really just make your own just by watching the video, make your own dimensions. I recommend using fabric that doesn't ravel, like that's like leather, soft leather. Don't get the stiff, hard leather, just easy to sew leather. Um, I linked all the materials on the descriptions, like I said before. It'll also be included in the PDF if you decide that you want to do this shape. Um, One thing that's nice about the D-ring is that it really makes it versatile. You can just use it like this if you just need an extra, throw it in a bigger purse for organization, or you can switch it with a fun strap. Claire V has a lot of fun straps, and then you can just change the whole look. Like this would be more of like if I went to a wedding or something and just wanted to carry this around, kind of like a different kind of clutch. That would be fun. Yeah, you can have fun with it. Thanks for watching.